Hi guys, and welcome back to another video for Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. In today's video, we're going to be doing a basic beginner's guide to the bullet bow weapon, which is used by the Braver class. Now, just a quick disclaimer, I mentioned this in my recent video as well. I am just getting over COVID at the moment, so if I sound like I'm full of cold, that's why. Just to get that out there at the start. So, bullet bow is a range weapon that's used by Braver, Braver being a hybrid class that also uses the katana weapon for melee. And the basic use of bow is to pressure enemies from a distance. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the basic combo for bow, look at the skills, the Photon Arts, and anything you might want to know about the weapon as well. So to start off, the basic combo with bow, very, very simple. There isn't one. So essentially, when you press the attack button with bow, you will just do a very basic burst of arrows. So it's like 3 shots, don't do particularly much damage. And that's more or less all there is to it. This main use for this really is just to restore your PP. You can also charge your bow shots as well. So there's actually 2 levels of bow charge, so with your normal shots, you only have 1 level, but there are some Photon Arts that use 2 levels. So with a charge shot, you just do 1 big shot instead that does more damage. So you can see with uncharged, we do kind of 3 shots that do about 200 damage each, where the charge shot does about 1200 damage. And the charge is pretty quick as well. You can see it doesn't take long to get the charge available. So that's the basic attack for bow. So next thing we'll look at is the weapon action. So you might not be able to tell what that is. It has a couple of functions, the weapon action for bow, but it does function as a parry. You can also move briefly doing it as well. We'll come on to that more in a minute. Next thing we're going to look at is the Photon Arts. So again, bow, like most weapons in NGS, has 4 different Photon Arts. You have Flex Arrow, Frenzied Firework, Dimensional Ray, and Ceaseless Draw. The first one we'll look at is Flex Arrow. So it says, fires homing arrows, can be charged up to 2 power levels to release different attacks. So uncharged, Flex Arrow fires... It looks like multiple shots, but it's actually just 1. And this, as it suggests, is homing. So if I go over to the angle here, you can see, it might be hard to see, but the arrows do kind of curve. If you charge it to level 1, it fires a little burst of shots instead. And again, these will curve in. So it does 2 shots instead. And again, as it said, you can charge it to a 2nd level as well. Now, when you get to this level here, it actually locks you in place so you can't move. So you want to be using this quite sparingly on downs and things like that. But when you release it, it does 1 shot that does a ton of damage. Again, it locks you in place in midair as well. But you can see the damage is much higher. So again, we go from uncharged, doing about 1000 damage. Level 1 charge is kind of hard to see for that. 1400 and 800. And then level 2 charge is nearly 7000. So it's a big difference in damage. But it does have... What you probably notice is that the time it takes to get to level 1 charge is pretty short, but the time to get to level 2 is quite long. So to get to level 1, it's pretty short, but to get to level 2, it's quite a long delay to it, really. So next up, we have Frenzied Firework. This is scatters arrows all around when you hit an enemy. Charge to launch an alternate attack. So uncharged, it basically fires a shot that then it's an explosion that hits things near it. But again, if you charge this, it This basically is like a spread shot, so this will hit things in a cone in front of you. And again, even though it's a spread shot, it actually has pretty decent range. You know, it still hit things from here. Up close though, because it's essentially a spread shot like a shotgun. If you do it up close, it will tend to focus on one target more. That's Frenzied Firework. You can see the normal shots are really good for regaining your PP as well. So that's the main use of your normal shots. So next Photon Art to look at is Dimensional Ray. This is quite an interesting one. So it says a bow from an alternate dimension fires arrows down on enemies. Charging and releasing will stock up to 5 homing attacks, which will be unleashed one at a time after your land hits with other Photon Arts. So if you do it uncharged, you can see you basically fire into a void, and then these arrows from the void will continue to attack a target. So again, you fire into the air, and then these dimensional arrows will continue to hit target. So it's just sustained DPS over time. The damage isn't fantastic, but it's just extra damage. You are free to do whatever you want while that's attacking. So if I do this, I can then continue to attack while that's going. So it's just extra DPS. If you charge it, you'll fire into the air. And you can do this up to a couple of times. And you can see the arrows aren't anywhere to be seen, but you've got this effect around your character that signifies it's active. If you then do another Photon Art, they will then start attacking. And it's with each Photon Art, you'll get 1 extra shot. But these are, what you notice is they do more damage. I think we might have maybe 1 more. Yeah. So again, they work slightly differently. So if you do uncharge, it will just do continuous DPS every so often. Whereas with the charge version, you can kind of stock that DPS and then use it when you want to. And it will activate whenever you do a Photon Art. So again, doing it uncharged, you get that instant attack. Whereas the way the charge one comes in is, say if you go to do the Photon Art, but then the enemy decides to break aggro on you and go after someone else, you might want to stock that charge and then release it when you're back near the enemy again. So let's say you're about to do an attack and then the enemy goes to run away to attack someone else. So you decide, okay, I'm going to stock that charge instead. So you fire it into the air as a charge one, you run after the enemy, and then you get into range, do another Photon Art, and you hit them with that dimensional attack that you've got stocked. And you can see it does stock multiples, so I think you get 5 out of it. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5, yeah. So you can get 5 stocks out of it. I actually thought that you had to actually do the Photon Art 5 times originally to get the 5 stocks, but you don't. Just by doing it once, you'll get 5 stocks of those dimensional arrows that you can then attack the opponent with whenever you use another Photon Art. I think it does expire after a little while, so you don't want to leave it too long, but it's generally you want to be using this quite often because it is just essentially almost free damage. You can do this even in downtime, so if an enemy goes to break aggro, you can use that time to then just stock your arrows and then go after the opponent again and then go back in with your dimensional arrows. And this works with any Photon Art as well. See, you can even charge, do flex arrow at full charge, and I'll still get that extra hit as well. So it's quite a good utility Photon Art, really. So next up, we have Ceaseless Draw. So Ceaseless Draw is unleash arrows to your front as you make a long move. Charging will release a flurry of Photon arrows instead. So if you do it uncharged, it's kind of interesting. So you basically, with uncharge, it's a way of getting a bit of distance from opponents. So you fire and basically back off as well. You can also use it to dash to different directions as well. So you can use it to dash sideways by putting the directional input as well. So if I hold left when I do it, she'll dash left. If I hold forward, she'll actually dash forward as well. So you can actually use it to get in as well. It's quite a versatile Photon Art, this. Doesn't do fantastic damage, but it's more used for repositioning, really. So if you're attacking an opponent and then say the opponent turns around and you need to get around to the front of it, but you want to maintain the pressure, you could then use this to get around them, maintain that pressure, but then you manage to reposition as well. And again, say it turns around the other way, you can use this to dash around and again maintain that pressure. You can also obviously do like dash attacks as well. The dash attack with bow is actually pretty good for repositioning. But Ceaseless Draw is another way of doing that. If you charge Ceaseless Draw, it just fires like a big hail of arrows in front of you instead. And it actually does a ton of damage. It is quite slow. And it does lock you in position for the whole Photon Art as well. So you are stuck in that position. All of those flips and everything that your character does, that's all part of the Photon Art. So you can't actually cancel out of that or anything. Can you cancel into another Photon Art from it? No, it doesn't look like you can cancel out of it at all. So you are locked into it. So you do want to be careful when you use that. But it is pretty good sustained damage. And the last hit of it does a big strike as well, which seems to do about the same damage as a fully charged Flex Arrow. Again, if we charge this, and this is only a level 1 charge as well. So you get that sustained barrage, and then a big hit at the end. As opposed to Flex Arrow, which has obviously the longer charge. And one big hit. I suppose the advantage of Flex Arrow is that once you've done the shot, you can immediately move, where with Ceaseless Draw, you are fixed in a position. With Flex Arrow, you're only fixed in a position while you're charging, and it's only once you're charging at level 2 as well. So I can still move around here. It's only when I go to level 2 that I get locked in. So generally what you would do is you would move around, and as soon as you get locked in, you'd fire. So you're not locked in for too long. But with Ceaseless Draw, although the initial charge is faster, you're then locked in for the whole of this. So there's advantages and drawbacks to both, really. So next up, what we'll do is we'll look at the skills that affect bow. So the first thing is Brave Combat. So Brave Combat is an active skill for Braver that affects both of its weapons. So what it does, it's an active skill you use from your action palette. It reduces your PP consumption and increases your attack PP recovery. And that's basically what it does initially. There is also a skill called Brave Combat Finish, and what that'll do is it'll allow you to activate it again to unleash a big attack at the end. So I think you get the attack regardless of having that other skill, but I think Brave Combat Finish boosts the damage of it. So do I have that active at the minute? Yes, I do. So if I activate this now, you see, if I use Photon Arts, my PP recovery is a lot faster. So if you look at my PP gauge after I burn some of this, you see it restores almost instantly. And then if I activate the skill again, it does like a big finishing hit. And again, this skill is actually used for Katana and Katana and Bow. So it affects both weapons. The finishing attack is different depending on what weapon you're using. That's fundamental to Braver. Next up, we have slow landing photon bow. So I always say this in all of the videos. The slow landing skills are really, really useful because they allow you to stay in the air for a bit longer. So again, if you jump normally, you fall straight away. But if you jump and shoot, you can see I drop a lot slower, so I can stay in the air for a lot longer. So next up, there is a few more skills for Brave Combat, but I won't go into those now. Just make sure that you have invested in Brave Combat. Next one is Brave Combat Arrow Mates. This one I will cover because it is specific to bow. So this is, during Brave Combat, adds resistance against launches and knockbacks caused by enemy attacks, at a specific point when attacking with a Photon Art. It's a very specific skill, so basically what it means is that if you're doing a Photon Art, you will be immune to knockback and launches. But I think it's only when you're starting to charge a Photon Art. I don't know the actual specifics of that. There is a specific timing for when it nullifies the knockbacks. I don't find that particularly useful, to be honest. Next up, we have Bow Illusion Counter. So this is when you successfully dodge using a weapon action, using a normal attack would unleash a counter. So again, your weapon action is this little parry. So if you can parry with this and then use a normal attack after it, you'll get an extra counter attack out of it. So it'll just, as well as your normal attack that you do, you'll also get an extra counter hit as well. Then we have Tracer Arrow. This is arrows released during not using normal attacks gain homing ability. So again, it's kind of hard to see, but it's really hard to see because the arrows travel so fast anyway that it's hard to tell if they're actually homing. It's easier to tell on like moving targets, this, but basically it will mean that your normal attacks will home. You can see it a bit more on the dash attack really. So when I do the dash attack, you can see that the arrow will kind of curve. But it does affect your normal arrows as well. So next up, we have Photon Arts PP combo save. This is chaining Photon Arts together reduces your PP consumption. So it's very similar to one of the fighter skills. So basically what it means is if you use different Photon Arts rather than using the same one over and over and again, you'll actually get a PP reduction of 15%. Next up, we have Bow Illusion Plus. This is using a weapon action while pressing the directional pad at just the right time after releasing a Photon Art will make you slide while attacking. So you use a weapon action by pressing the directional pad. So what it's saying here is you want to be using the weapon action while moving. So instead of just pressing it like this, you want to be using it to move. And what it'll do what this will actually do is, if you use that weapon action and move just at the right time after releasing a Photon Art, it'll make you slide. Let's see if we can do that. So that was it there. So you can see I repositioned myself quite fast. So do a Photon Art, and then just as the Photon Art finishes, you press the weapon action and a direction. And you get that little extra dash, which also does an extra hit as well. Again, Photon Art, dash. So what I'm pressing there is I'm doing the Photon Art. Just as the Photon Art finishes, I press the weapon action with the direction input. And that will input that slide. So again, Photon Art, weapon action. But just make sure that you're inputting it with the direction, otherwise it won't work. So if you just do it with a normal weapon action, that's what happens. You just get the normal weapon action. But if I press the weapon action with the direction after it, you get the slide. It's just really good for repositioning. It actually reminds me a lot of the bow from Monster Hunter World Iceborne, with the way that you could effectively what was called dash dancing, where you could dash around and shoot between dashes. It kind of reminds me a lot of that, the way that it moves around. So next up, we have Alternate Arts PP Preservation. So this is decreases your PP consumption when you chain different Photon Arts together. So this is a really, really confusing one because we also have Bow Arts PP combo save. So what this does, so PP combo save reduces your PP consumption when you chain Photon Arts together. Whereas PP Preservation decreases your PP consumption when you chain different Photon Arts together. Now, to me, I really struggle with this because to me that sounds exactly the same. I can only assume they are basically two skills that work very similar to each other. It is very strange that they seem so similar. but the wording is slightly different. So this is PP consumption. That's also PP consumption as well, yeah. So I think these two skills are essentially the same. I may be wrong on that though, so don't quote me on it. But they are very, very similar skills from what it looks like. I've never really understood the difference between them. Then finally, we have Bow Illusion EX counter. This is launching a normal attack when you successfully dodge with Bow Illusion Plus, unleashes a counter. So Bow Illusion Plus, again, is the slide. So basically what this is telling you to do is, if you can successfully dodge by using that slide, so again, you use a Photon Art, then use your weapon action with a direction to initiate the slide. If you can dodge with that slide, if you then press a normal attack, you'll do another counter. So it's quite a complicated counter to get to, because you have to use a Photon Art, do the weapon action with a direction, then hope that that slide dodges an attack. So you kind of have to pre-predict to an extent, because you need to be aware that you'll need to use a Photon Art to be able to get into the slide. So if you see an enemy coming towards you and you know you're going to get hit in a second or so, you could maybe then buffer that in by using a quick Photon Art, then using the slide to dodge the attack, and then use a normal attack after the slide to do an extra counter. So again, I don't find it massively useful. The slide itself I find really, really useful for repositioning, but the extra counter, not so much. Some people will base their playstyle around it. For me, that's not how I normally play Bow. But I think overall, I think that's more or less everything there is to Bow. So what you want to remember with Bow is you want to make sure that you're using your dimensional shots as much as possible to maintain that extra damage. Make sure that you're using the slide whenever you can to reposition. If you do get a slide and it dodges an attack, make sure to follow up with that counter attack. But you're essentially just maintaining pressure from a distance, and make sure that you're using Brave Combat as much as possible as well, just mainly for the PP regeneration, just so it allows you to just spam your Photon Arts a lot more often. So that's the main things with Bow, I would say. The interesting thing with Braver is that you are obviously balancing this with Katana as well. So you'll be using Katana for your melee damage, and then you're using Bow for your ranged. So you will be alternating between the two quite often. So it's a very interesting class because you've got these two totally different playstyles that need to mesh together. So you could theoretically just play Braver purely with Katana, and you could play it purely with Bow as well. So if you own like one of the weapons, you can still do it that way. But you will be a better Braver overall generally if you mix between the two weapons. I will do a guide on Katana at some point as well. But for the meantime, I think that's about everything for Bow. If any questions at all, just leave them in the comments below and I'll try and answer what I can. But for the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.